Oh, thank you, everybody. Let's start again. All right. All right. Okay, thank you, everybody. Sorry, it was my fault. Cano's here. I'm going to bring him right on. Perfect. Yay.
Saludos.
Salud. All right, everybody. Thank you. Of course, I messed up.
It's all good. It's all good.
You're dealing with everything, and I'm the one who messed up. First of all,
Estamos
thank you
bien,
for
estamos bien.
coming on. Thank you for coming on.
Gracias a ti. Thank you for having, the idea and the intention.
Yeah, dímelo. So yeah, just break it down. Everybody who's joining, this is a longtime comrade of mine, and we reconnected after Hurricane Maria, and he's done amazing work. A lot of y'all know who he is just through all his amazing work for decades as well. And he's in Santurce, Puerto Rico right now. So just that you're on, this means a lot to so many people right now. Because I know y'all ain't sleeping, doing what you all do, doing what you do. So thank you. And everybody, I'm just going to let Cano break down what's going on and make, a case for, again, why we need this colonial shit to end for good, forever. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for starting with the colonial shit to end, because of course we don't want to lose sight and name, the real people who are responsible for this. Because of course nature will take its course, but what's happening in Puerto Rico now is the product of many years of disinvestment, many years of a neo-colonial project. After we served the U.S., well for decades in its project of industrialization, manos a la obra and everything after that. And to understand that we, now as a neo-colony, as a colony without, we're a neoliberal government, neo-colony, you're right. We're a neoliberal government, our role is different, it's privatization, right? And it's just like in the US, the infrastructure collapse. And what we're seeing is that is the result. And we saw with Maria, and we're seeing it again now. It's years of the same kind of treatment towards Puerto Rico by both the US, and its colonial agencies and the local government, which for years, of course, its role has been to facilitate, the destruction of la puertorriqueñidad, for we are as a people, and the displacement of our peoples, to what we have now. In terms of what's happening now, we're lucky to be in the top part of Santurce, so we have power like few people. Half of our street doesn't have power. We don't have water right now. But honestly, the north of the island.
Cano.
Yes.
No, you keep going. I'm gonna grab. I got a map of Puerto Rico because I realized
Yeah, sure.
that
Go ahead.
people
Yeah.
don't even know
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
But keep going on because the audience is here.
Yeah. So we're in the north of the island of Puerto Rico, Santurce, ¿verdad? Which is its own island. After Viejo San Juan, after that small island. So we didn't get hit that hard, like many parts of the island. But what's happened in Puerto Rico with this hurricane and with whatever 26 inches, 27, whatever it's been, almost 30 inches of rain falling on Puerto Rico. It's not like Hurricane Maria where the winds were ridiculous, but the amount of rainfall has created so much damage. We're not even able to assess right now all the damage that's happening. We've been all day reaching out to our community and folks who we've been building for years, since Hurricane Maria and before that. So it's going to be a very difficult situation, and also we're in a worse place than we were when Maria came, right? Because we're also dragging all the work that it was never done to recuperate from Maria, and then the earthquakes and the pandemia, and now this, especially to the south of Puerto Rico and the southwest, which have been hit by the terremotos, the earthquakes, and we're hit by this. So we have, the whole island's affected, but we really have some parts of the island where are incredibly affected by this, and it's really heartbreaking and to see, that we have to endure all this. So it's only the beginning, and I know folks are like, eager to know what's going on, but we have to be patient because right now folks are just trying to, just see if folks are fine, and it's been hard because communication has not been easy because of cell phone and electricity, etc. So
yeah, I mean, that we can talk, that you can talk to us is big right now, because just to backtrack for folks, this was a Hurricane 1 and Maria was a Hurricane 4. The island didn't lose power that quickly in a Hurricane 4. So I think there's such a lack of information around just infrastructure. If you don't fix roads for 80 years, they're going to collapse. But I think the video that we have seen, Cano, and I'm not sure what y'all are able to see or imagery, was the one where they have built a bridge after to withstand Hurricane Maria, and within seconds it collapsed, right?
en
So,
Utuado, yeah, en Utuado.
yeah,
Utuado folks are really struggling in Utuado.
and Utuado was when Maria had hit. That was one of the places we went to with the media delegation, you know, and it was devastating. I feel like there's definitely more preparation this time around in terms of mutual aid and community groups. So before you get into that, because I think it's important now that we take a beat here, the diaspora especially, and trust that our people are going to hold it down. Even if it's worse than Maria, the community organizations, the mutual aid, and the general political consciousness is at a whole different level around. But I want to show people, Puerto Rico, this is how you know we're a colony. We have 78 towns, which is insane. In any place that small, you don't have 78 towns. So there's 78 different mayors, or they're going to try to eventually consolidate that. But you're talking about a lot of people who then are completely shut off and not able to communicate, and it's still a colonial government. So this is what Puerto Rico is. This is a pretty dope map. For folks who don't understand, right? And Santurce, Cano and his comrades are closer to San Juan, Isabela, and Isla Verde, that area. So you're talking about, we don't have any information coming out of Moca right now, not too much out of Rincon. Ponce in the middle got hit first. My family, I think my mom's definitely heard from one of my cousins, but a lot of my mom's family is there. I know that people are more prepared, but with that being said, I'm not sure if people understand that the next days are going to be brutal, because that's when we're going to see what is happening to everybody in all these different places, hospitals, everything. We won't know for a couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, and also we have to understand that these conditions we have been living since before the hurricane. This is just an aggravator. So, yes, there are more experiences that we learned from Maria, but the situation in Puerto Rico 5 years later is even more precarious, right? And Centro Médico, right, the premier like hospital in Puerto Rico lost power, you know, like hours into this, you know, and this is where people are surviving on electricity. And of course, this is because of the, you know, a long, again, and if you talked about this, about not investment in roads, but the U.S. invested in Puerto Rico's infrastructure when it was usable for industry. And then, you know, then it was about privatizing it.
Right,
so
right.
privatizing the electrical grid in Puerto Rico, which is one of the latest things of the whole series of privatizations of whatever they can find in Puerto Rico to sell away. You know, it's led to this, you know, it's led to this electrical problem, 100% people off the grid, you know, I'm sorry, power outage yesterday, even before, you know, with really, really little winds. And of course, I mean, we can talk about why that happened, and as people are saying, but still, this is a company that FEMA basically imposed on us, you know, and it hasn't done any of its work to make the system better. It's making, you know, millions and millions of dollars, you know, in a contract that won't even force them to really do the work that needs to be done here. You know, and they make incredible, ridiculous salaries, and they've had 7 increases since they started last year. And here we have now, you know, people's, you know, it's a crisis that's been coming. And it's not just electrical. I'm picking electrical to pick, you know, one of the aspects that's been most dramatic over the last year. But Puerto Rico, you know, the attack, of course. And then, you know, I don't know who's listening and who's here, but of course, the whole, ley 2022, Act 60, I'm sorry, Law 60 or Act 60, and the whole Americans moving here, multimillionaires, taking over beaches, and then the government responding, with, like, this is what the country needs, this kind of development. So this is a constant and ridiculous attack that's been happening for years, that our market could be 2006 when, when we had imposed a tax and when the government shut down and there was huge protests. So we used that as a marker, 2006, in a way, in terms of the, how escalation of this neoliberal project. But really after Maria, there's also been another escalation, so this is the product of all that. So yes, of course, Fiona and, natural disasters, we can talk about why they happen, why not, but the response of the government and the preparedness and the, and the shelters, everything that could have been done, even when there was money for it, in the colony, it doesn't operate that way, right? The colony is designed to fail and to fail us as a people.
Yeah, and when the new governor spoke, which I can't tell the difference between him and Rosa anyway, they're all colonial anyway. On the other night, he said, no, it's not going to be that bad. Luma, when they said, when they asked him about the Luma contract and, when would the power be back, he's saying this, then the power shuts down at his own press conference. And then he goes back on the air saying, nah, Luma's a good company. Dude, because you probably got mad kickbacks. Like, all of them are corrupt at this point, man. Like, all of them. And it's so deep. And I think it's so difficult for people, even here in the United States, to understand what it means to be a living, breathing colony that continues to be extracted, every resource from it. And I'm wondering, like, well, actually, I do want you to, like, tell folks about this governor, because I'm not seeing him be that different than Jose Joe.
I mean, I want to go back to the idea of corruption, because I stay away from that discourse. And you know why? Because, like, the colony has always been corrupt, right? Capitalism has always been corrupt.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying that, people can do better or worse. We could talk about the levels. But really, like, when you have a colony, and if you lived here and if you, it's hard even for us, we don't talk about what being a colonized person is, right? We don't have spaces to even start talking about this, right? Like, but really this idea that we can't do it for ourselves, that we can't work, that we have no project as a country, and the colonial government perpetuates this and closes, I don't know, 600 schools and, 400 schools out of 1,400 in what, less than 10 years? Like, and you see this constant attack and dismantling of every service, and attack on the people. I mean, like, so it's hard to even, I think, fathom in that way, like, to think about it without thinking of what a colonial mindset even is. And again, we don't even have a chance to talk about this, right? So I'm saying this to you, and I'm like, thinking about it myself. I don't have the words necessarily to speak about it, but really, it's all intertwined with that situation. Yes, of being a colony and being a colony of the 21st century, of a decaying empire in its last breath. And what does that mean? So extraction is accelerating because they got to take it all out quick.
And everywhere. So, that's the thing, right? I'm shocked at the amount of people that don't know that there are 50 million people right now in Pakistan that have been flooded. 50, like, the number's incomprehensible. And then we can go to Jackson, Mississippi. Anyone here who knows particularly the work that I do, I'm on the board of Cooperation Jackson. And, for a decade, everybody in the organization was preparing for the time when they knew this water crisis would happen. And then there's a water crisis happening in Cape Town, South Africa. I mean, we can go around the world. And I think that this is going to require definitely a new generation of Boricuas, that the end goal is to end colonialism by any means necessary, what that looks like now in this day and age. So what is it that you would want people to know, especially artists here, cultural workers, in terms of supporting what's going on, but in bringing out more of the consciousness around Puerto Rico and the nature of who we've always been as a people, you know, especially as independistas. But, you know, luckily we killed that kind of resilient narrative down. But what is it that you would want people to know at this moment?
I mean, if you're talking about, right, one thing is to talk about hurricane and we can talk about relief, and one thing is to talk about politics. I mean, I think that there needs to be more conversations, because every time in the Senate or House something pops off to find some solution for us, which is always, you know, an empty thing. You know, the progressives and the left don't know how to respond, because, you know, there's not a good line out there. We haven't really pushed and been able to push a good line about what being, if you are for Puerto Rico to not be a colony, if you are for Puerto Rico to be self-determined and independent as it needs to be, then what is it supported or not? So I think we need to have further conversations if you want, and I'm willing to, and not just me, but whoever's more adequate for the conversation, to talk about like what the support looks like broadly in terms of what anti-colonial work is. But in the general, in the US, and we've talked about this, like for folks, you know, who are consider themselves radical or left, you know, we have to be anti-colonial and anti-imperialist. And I think that's a long tradition, you know, of Black Pan-Africanism, you know, of Black nationalism in the US, of, you know, of Pan-Caribbeanism, you know, that speaks to this for generations, of the kind of solidarity that needs to happen from an anti-imperialist, anti-colonial place. So, and we need to bring that into a lot of the discourses, and I mean discourse just mean like to start talking about it. We need to bring it into the practice, like, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we need really to start, you know, having that conversation again. What does that look like? And I'm talking about, because I imagine most people are from the US, right? What does being anti-imperialist, anti-colonial means at this moment? And how does that, you know, impact radical left politics? But in terms of Puerto Rico now, I mean, we're still hearing what's the damage being happening. I mean, we had to respond quick, so we put out our request on the Maria Fund, which is a fund that was started after the hurricane, which really has worked in a broad spectrum of organizations here, a lot of groups that were never been funded, and of course, a lot of groups that also do the work that Maria Fund can't do, but are related, and we're working with them because we wanted to be able to have a quick response. And I will say for us, we've been doing mutual aid work, you know, directly defined as 5 years, even though our history for 25 years, mutual aid has been part of the work, but really, you know, in a conscious way. And all of, you know, any of the money that comes out will go directly to communities. But we're still trying to find out what's going down. When we put out the request, because I know folks are going to start putting stuff out, and we've learned from Maria that also we have to be proactive and quick, because there's a lot of efforts out there that, if not, will like suck up the funds and then, you know, and not fund or funnel the money to certain groups, and, you know, and we are committed, and we're doing this work. I mean, the work is out there. I'm doing this on my personal page because I didn't talk to the staff, you know, to like do this on their AgitArte's page, but AgitArte's Cultural Works, and, you know, Maria Fund, folks put out a request. There's also a lot of groups on the ground that should be given to directly, and we'll be promoting those groups. But it's like right now, it's not clear exactly. So we'll be in the next couple of days putting out more groups that should be supported, and I'll be in contact with you if you want to, you know, push those out, because obviously things, you know, rain started to stop like literally a couple hours ago.
And the flash
and it's
flood.
going to come back again tomorrow. You know, it's like, it's ridiculous, and more rain this weekend. So the damage is not even close to over, unfortunately. It's going to be very hard. And we need to be patient and be ready to respond also in a way, again, to you know, to build, as you say, to an anti-colonial struggle, because this is all part, you know, the mutual aid response to that work, right? Like a response to
and this is why I wanted to get into the decolonization and the politics of it, because everything is political. And also, you know, I think we're becoming like used to trauma response. And I'm kind of like, the mental health element of all of it is bad. You know, like the immediate response is like automatic, that happened. And I'm like, you know, now a little bit older and having dealt with severe health issues, I see, you know, us as organizers, and I'm like, this constant trauma response, for me, the antidote is first trust. Because the first thing I want to do was really like get on a plane. And I was like, listen, girl, 5 years ago you did that. The infrastructure, mutual aid, self-determination, people repatriating back to the island. It's your turn now that you're in the diaspora to trust that the people are going to hold it down. Then we will have to wait, and then we will respond as the people in Puerto Rico on the ground want us to, you know. And the other part was like people just going down there and repeating, you know, the same response is not what we need anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to talk about the politics, because to me, that's the antidote to the continuing trauma. Like, I feel more, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel more than ever that I will see Puerto Rico one day be an independent nation that will also be the first island nation that will never have to have an electrical grid ever again, and set the tone for how, unfortunately, we have to, at this moment, be veracity around hyperspeed, around climate catastrophe, and that the solutions for the rest of the world, I think, lie in Puerto Rico.
Well, it's funny you say that because we leave tomorrow for Dallas. We're doing a festival. We have a radical imagination sci-fi play about the last day of the last prison of liberated lands formerly known as the U.S. and Mexico. And is you know, a fleet of folks that come from the Caribbean. We've been free for 7 years. We're in the Alianza.
Wait, where are you going to be?
It's
Dallas,
in Dallas.
Texas?
It's called Caramia Theater. It's a Latino theater in Dallas. So we're doing a presentation the 30th of September, 1st and 2nd of October. And but this is a work in progress. Next year we will actually premiere the show probably in New York, because we have a commission there from the folks at Pregones who've been very supportive, and then we'll probably do it in Puerto Rico. So, but we'll talk more about this play. But idea of being Puerto Rico,
well, it's
imagining
the
Puerto
first you're
Rico being
telling
free.
me. That's why I'm like, y'all, I
Yeah, we don't
know
talk
it
enough.
was
We don't talk
coming.
enough. We don't talk enough. But yeah, no, it's and you can see it again. But going back to what should I lost it? She was saying talking
The
about
mental health kind of antidote of resistance
right.
against.
So I think the whole idea about trauma, and it's funny because we tried to raise money to have a program in place to hire people and to work with the folks who've been working for years. And I want to say that because I think when Maria happened, folks didn't necessarily know who groups were, but you can go and check these groups out. It's all documented, the work we do. So all the groups that are out there doing the work, you can check them out, you know, and see the work we've been doing. It was harder 5 years ago, but now we've been, you know, we've had to, and people, you can see the work. So you know the folks doing the work if you do a little research. And there'll be a lot of groups asking for money out there, but it's a lot of groups that'll be doing work on the ground. But in terms of trauma response, we try to hire somebody, and we did it anyway. We did some of the work anyway. What are the networks, who's out there, but funding the work from a perspective of being proactive, that was not an option. And we knocked on many doors to fund a mutual aid program that was not depending on having the catastrophe to fund it. So you're right, we're used to trauma response, but also that's the only thing that's funded, you know, when things are going down in this. And I'm worried because now how many things are happening, as you said, how many catastrophes are happening. So it'll be harder and the damage won't be as dramatic. San Juan will keep, people will be working tomorrow because it wasn't island-wide as bad as it was. So it'll continue to have a certain normality, and then we'll have half of the island forgotten, you know, without resources to really get back up. Resources we haven't had since for any long time. And again, we can use Maria as a marker, you know, that's been a dramatic moment, but still folks that never recuperated from Maria. And also a lot of people that we work with who are farmers, you know, people who come back to the land, who are doing the work that we're supposed to do, who have lost everything.
Everything again.
Everything. And I'm talking about years and years of work. So the effects of this are monumental. Like, we don't know enough yet. I mean, I want folks who are interested and support you and are listening to like just like really stick through it and check out, you know, like as we try to do the work, and that there's channels already to support. And again, we put again a campaign out to the Maria Fund, but as I said, there's other folks doing work on the ground. We have no interest in, you know, in sucking up funds. Quite the contrary. What we want to make sure is that funds go to the work that needs to happen. And again, as we've demonstrated and we've done since Maria, which we've had to. We haven't had a break. Rosa, ha sido sin parar esta pendejada, mano. Esto ha sido como que one after the other, after the other, after, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but we're here, and we've learned, like you said, and we're ready to do the work. So, you know, I'm also, you know.
It's never ending, but it will. You know, like I think that well, not that I think, I was reading something from this brother, I'll drop his name. A lot of people know him, Mikey Cordero, and he had put some stuff out. But one of the things that he says, like, he gives a couple like bullet points of how people outside the island, how we should be responding and understand what's happening. Yeah. And he's like, be aware of what you're sharing on social media, because we're being bombarded with the devastating images from around Puerto Rico. And I'm in that camp because I'm also in that camp where I don't view pictures of anybody who's murdered by the police anymore, you know? Yeah. And I think a lot of us have to stop doing that, because it's trauma inducing every single time. And different people react to that stuff differently. And he's also saying that folks have to understand that when it's not just not having electricity, not having water.
That's much worse. That's much worse than not having electricity.
Yeah.
Right now, like, most of the island has no water. We have a water reserve, but water's not coming in. So it's real. I'd rather have water than electricity any day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. Especially like in Puerto Rico, you know, no matter what, it's not. In a response in the United States, people would already be in the streets killing each other out here in this country. Other people know how to, like, it's the truth, you know. And I'm like, at least with Puerto Rico, the mutual aid, the solidarity is here, but you need water to live, man. Like, this is,
Waters.
You know, but I want to thank you, because first, I was so lucky that you're able to come on. And I know all of you've been working so hard, and you're on your way to Dallas, and you know you're gonna be there doing what y'all do, and still dealing with everything back at home.
We are.
You know. So hey, Lee, let me ask you something. What for you is the future of Puerto Rico, or your vision?
I mean, I think the future of Puerto Rico, we have to build it, and I think that. And you talk about Maria. Maria was a marker for a lot of folks to start doing a lot of work that is very invisible. And there's people, again, doing farming work. A lot of people are taking back to the land and trying to, like, figure it out. A lot of people have gone to the trenches to do work, whether it's work, you know, with queer folks, whether it's work, you know, it's pro-Black work, whether it's work in the coasts of Puerto Rico, whether it's work in the mountains defending the schools that you never see that are being shut down. You know, whether it's here in Santurce with the destruction of our livelihood by Airbnbs and tourism. You know, Puerto Rico is in a constant attack, and I feel that we almost have to stop and be able to really look and appreciate all the work that is being done, because the resistance has been so strong, and it might seem ridiculous, but that we are still people of who we are in 2020 after what? 122 años you know, of the most powerful, ridiculous empire in history, you know, bombarding us with, you know, with every project, right? We are the test, we're the laboratory, right? Of todo, whether it's birth control or whether it's marketing, you know, like, aquí todo se prueba, you know. And,
cryptocurrency,
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin.
like, you know, yeah, we have to have more conversations about this recolonization of Puerto Rico, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what to call it yet, but this new wave of people. Pero if I talk about a vision, I want to, and we put it out there, a vision, and I believe it's about survival and solidarity. And I mean that from the best place. I think we're going to see a lot more, you know, catastrophes, a lot more situations where we're not ready for. We're not ready for half the stuff that's hit us, you know, and wherever we are, you know, and I think the trauma, as you said, response. So we have to breathe, and I think that we have to continue building, which is what we've been doing, and again from a lot of invisible places. So I am looking forward to folks who are here to commit long-term to this struggle and, you know, to continue to have the conversations, and we can continue to have the conversations, and not with me, whoever is most adequate, and being that organizer that can make that happen. I joined today because I was available, and I'm glad you reached out. But there's a lot, I think, possibility for Puerto Rico to continue to develop what it always has, its resistance and its capacity to be independent. Because I think the discourse of what being independent has shifted. You know, the national discourse has shifted. I think that now when we talk about independence, it's the ability to have electricity, power, it's the ability to have water, the ability to grow food. So it's not this, for me, this patriotic thing, which I have it, you know, like, you know, my hand, and let's cantar el himno revolucionario, but it's really about survival. So I think independence is about survival, and it's about solidarity. And we need to continue to keep building those structures, you know, and those relationships that we have for years. And as you said, trust, but it's a trust based on action. So we have to continue to make our actions build that trust. And we're down for that. We're down for that. And, you know.
Thank you so much. Like now I'm like, okay, that's it. You know, that as much as they try to bring us down through every means that you mentioned, and gentrification right now, all the way to sterilization and independistas, it's like we just come back harder. Like we're not going anywhere.
Nope,
you know,
we're not.
We're not. But we're also going to move from a time. I was thinking maybe with the death of this colonizer last week, that maybe that could be the last time we see any of us, wherever we are, edifying our colonizers, you know, anymore. And I think we're there. And I just think we're going to have to probably double down on what we thought, just because this climate catastrophe knows no bounds, no matter where. You know, no one, for the most part, is going to escape it. So thank you. Thank you to you. Thanks to everybody in Santurce and everyone around La Isla holding it down. Follow Mikey Cordero, Cano. We defend Puerto Rico. Raquel Ricard, Tajesula, Salud, Kopi, the Feminist Collective in Puerto Rico. I just dropped 10 orgs, and they're all doing incredible work, but it seems that everyone is also pointing to the Maria Fund, and I already dropped that in the comments. And then follow Cano and follow, you know, folks in Puerto Rico, and just support the work on the ground. Thank you. Thank you. I love
Gracias,
you.
Rosa.
I love you so much.
Respect, sister,
so
respect. Estamos aquí.
Pa'lante. I'll see you
Pa'lante,
soon.
pa'lante siempre.
Siempre pa'lante.
Siempre, mi amor.